Hello and welcome, friends. Welcome to another episode of the mini series where I celebrate 1 year of YouTube activity by showing you all my collection of fountain pens. This time, I have a selection of fountain pens from America, from England, from France, and from former Czechoslovakia. So I will start with the Americans. And the first fountain pen I want to show you is this Morton lever filler. This beautiful, beautiful lever filler. It resembles a lot with the Parker Duofold, and it was made in America, I believe in New York, in the late 1920s and the beginning of the 1930s. It has this beautiful warranted 14 karat 8 nib, and it's simply gorgeous. I like it a lot. It comes in this color that was used also by Parker, this mandarin orange, and it's quite a large fountain pen. I will leave this aside. Now I have one of my interesting American fountain pens. It is a desk set. It's interesting that it has those three rings. It is not so common in the three rings. So we have a wall ever sharp made in Chicago, USA. So this was the stand. It is quite similar with, with this stand. So it is a ball, and this was fitted also on a similar stand, maybe a marble stand. Maybe it was fitted on a marble stand like this Italian stand here. So unfortunately I bought it without the stand in this condition, and you will see what I mean. So this is a beautiful, beautiful celluloid in this green pearl model, and this is the fountain pen. Okay, the fountain pen for the desk office. Unfortunately, here we have a replacement nib. It's not the original wall ever sharp nib. Unfortunately, it's a STW Iridium. I think this is a East German producer. So this fountain pen was bought in Romania, and during communist times, all the gold nibs were scrapped. So people back then, there was a law, you weren't allowed to have gold in your possession, and if you had some old 1930s or 1940s fountain pens, you simply took the nib and you went to a jeweler to repair some of your jewelries. So unfortunately, many of the interbellic, between the First World War and the Second World War, fountain pens with gold nibs, their gold nibs was scratched and they were often melted. It is a shame. We have again the three rings, so there might have a signification. This is a lever filler. Again, the wall ever sharp logo. Unfortunately, we have this big crack here, and this is the ending of the fountain pen. Of course, you can take this off, and I will take it off, but I'm trying to put a little bit of pressure on this part here to stop the crack. Celluloid is quite delicate material, especially after all these years. So this is a 1920s product. We have here the inner mechanism of the rod. It appears that the sac, it isn't present. Yes, it's not. So I will leave, guys, this aside. And now let's move over the pond. Let's move over the Atlantic Ocean. And I will choose the oldest one of them. So this is an Onoto miner from the model is Onoto miner 1201 from 1937. It comes in this celluloid which has this pattern of a picnic basket. Here we have some imprints on Otto Minor, De La Rue and Co. Limited, London, and a British pattern. It has some teeth marks over here, but I like it a lot. So this is the oldest British fountain pen in my collection. Let's move on to the 1950s. And from the 1950s, I have three of them. And let's start with this beautiful Conway Stewart 12 from the late 1950s. It is interesting that in the late 1950s, the British producers still used this lever filler, which was invented in America in the 1920s. So quite an old system used on this Conway Stewart 12. This has a beautiful gold nib, 14 karat, and it is made of a material called casein. And you've noticed that it is not so bright like the celluloid ones. So casein is a product made out of milk, believe it or not, but it is quite delicate material. And for you out there that have similar products made out of casein, you probably know that casein isn't a friend of water. So don't use water on it because you will damage the material. Moving on, I have a wonderful my Marby Toad Swan calligraph from approximately 1951 in this rather unusual color, a turquoise color. Another wonderful fountain pen, and I like its nib with that heart over there. It is quite wonderful, and that C from calligraph, quite a nice fountain pen. Let's move on to a Burnham. I'm not so sure that I've pronounced it correctly. Burnham. I hope I did pronounce it correctly. A fountain pen made in London in the 1950s. This is a large Burnham number 60. And it's a quite nice fountain pen. It has a wonderful gold nib. Burnham 14 karat gold osmiridium. Now we move on, guys, to a quite beautiful celluloid, a small fountain pen, but a no-name fountain pen. We know it's a lever filler, but it has no markings whatsoever on the body or on the cap. And even the gold nib, warranted 14 karat, it doesn't reveal us some clues about the producer. So when you see a warranted gold nib, it was made in USA or in England. But I had to show you this wonderful lever filler. Quite a nice fountain pen from my collection. And speaking of no-name fountain pens, I have another small fountain pen. This time a button filler. So I believe it's from the first half of the 1930s. And it is a look-alike, so it resembles a lot with the Parker Duofold top ring vest pocket model from 1932. And I especially love on this model this celluloid, this material of celluloid with the gold leaves and this beautiful dark blue material. I will leave this aside, and now we move on to some fountain pens that were made in France. I don't have many models made in France, so I will start with the oldest one in my collection. This unique fountain pen a lever filler from the 1930s. I believe that I have the unique brand. Just look at the top of the cap, guys. So we have an U, an A, an I unique. So this is a quite nice model made in Paris, France in the 1930s. It is not in a good shape. I bought it as it is. It has a steel nib imprinted with the unique brand, and it's a quite decent writer. Now let's move on in time from the 1930s to the shiny 1970s, and I have two models from DuPont, ST DuPont, a luxury producer back then, and it is still in activity, and it releases fountain pens from time to time. Beautiful pieces. This is a 925, the vermeil. So the vermeil technique is the gold plating of solid silver, 925 solid silver. This is a solid silver fountain pen, a quite nice elegant fountain pen. It is the series classic from 1978, and they are wonderful. They have this semi-hooded 18 karat gold nib, quite nice. But unfortunate, they are cartridge fillers, and being from 1978, you can be sure that they will take international size ink cartridges. Well, I like all the imprints that show us that we have a nice material. I want to show you the second model, which is practically the same as the first model, including the beautiful nib. And this is in Lac de Chine, also 925. So we have this beautiful Lac de Chine that is overlaid on a solid silver body. So I will now leave those aside, and now let's move on to a contemporary fountain pen made also in France. This is the brand Ceruti, and I quite like this metallic fountain pen. So this is metal, and those are like leather material that that mimics the skin of an alligator. It is in this brown color. It has those stitchings here that I love a lot, and it's one of my favorite fountain pens. It's quite a practical fountain pen. It comes with this iridium point Germany nib, quite a nice steel nib, and I think it also takes cartridges, if I remember correctly. Yes, although it's made out of metal, it's not such a heavy fountain pen, and it's one of my favorite modern ones in my current collection. Now we will move on to an interesting producer from a country that doesn't exist. It was split in different states, and we are talking about the Czechoslovakia. And I have a model, a set model from the 1950s. It is the Centroplan Barclay 1305 model in solid silver 835. Quite a nice example. This model comes equipped with a wonderful repeat nib, a repeat commemorative nib, 14 karat repeat Czechoslovakia, and this is quite a nice nib and a flexible nib. You can see, and when I push it on my fingernail. This is the name of the model 1305, 809, and other imprints from the fabric. This is the 835 hallmarks of solid silver. And I want to show you the interesting filling mechanism of this fountain pen. So to fill this fountain pen, you simply push on this. But I will show you the internals of this system. So this is a sack, this is a rubber sack in this interesting form that allows it, like an accordion, to compress, and it fills the sack and also this rod which you can see is transparent. It has a double roll. It has a roll of pushing element, but also a roll of ink window to show you how low or how is the level of the ink in your fountain pen. So quite a nice, interesting filling mechanism. I thought I will show you guys because this isn't a common filling mechanism. Of course, I will show you also the mechanical pen made also in the same pattern. It's interesting that when I first posted the review of this fountain pen, I had a great comment from a person in Czechoslovakia or in Bulgaria, I don't know for sure, and he told me that his father or his grandfather had a similar fountain pen, and it was quite a pride for him. It was a lawyer, so in general, lawyers and medics use writing instruments, but you can see that this spells luxury. I don't have money to buy a Mont Blanc full of silver. I believe it's called a solitaire. But I bought this. It cost me around 180 euros, so not a large sum for a beautiful set. The only flaw to it is that is missing this jewel part here, similar to the Parker 51, but I think it was also in silver, maybe. I'm not so sure. And guys, we are down to the last fountain pen, a fountain pen also made by Centro Pen, and the name is 3268. It is a product of the 1970s or maybe early 1980s. It has this beautiful ink window and it is a piston filler. So guys, those were another fountain pens that didn't make the producer or country of origin special episodes. So those are my fountain pens: American, English, French, and from the late country of Czechoslovakia. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, guys. I want to wish you to have a nice day wherever you are. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to my channel to support my activity. I will see you again at the next episode. Till then, please take care of yourself, guys. Bye bye.